you came for our program this evening, the County Board Candidates Forum for the Democratic Nominating Caucus. As I think everyone is aware, our esteemed Jay Fassett is retiring at the end of the year, and the Arlington County Democratic Committee is holding a caucus to select its nominee to run for the seat he will be leaving. And we are pleased to welcome the 4 candidates who are running for that to tonight's forum. And so I am very pleased to welcome Scott McCaffrey as the editor of the Sun-Gazette newspapers to join us as our moderator. He needs no introduction, so I'm not going to give him one. Just welcome Scott McCaffrey up to the podium.
Peter Fallon, number 1, Erik Gutshall, number 2, Vivek Patil, number 3, and Kim Klingler, number 4. They have a minute. The timer, Sharon Dorsey, is right there. We are going to enforce it. We have a lot of really good questions, and we want to get to that. So let's start right now with number 1, Peter Fallon.
Thank you, Scott. Well, it's great to be back here at the Committee of 100 and see so many familiar faces. I've been on the board now, I guess for at least 4, almost 5 years. And one thing I want to say is that the Committee of 100 really epitomizes my philosophy about how to have civil discussion and how to make decisions, okay? And a lot of times in today's world, whether it's the digital approach or social media, people immediately make up their minds, and that's certainly fine, do their own research. What I love about the Committee of 100 is that we come together every month with a wonderful and timely topic of relevance to our lives here in Arlington. And we've been doing it, or most of you have been doing it for over 60 years, all right? And we have, the for and against position, sometimes it's somebody in the middle, but we don't take positions as a group. Instead, it's an opportunity to come out and hear different sides of an issue with an open mind and to appreciate and find those commonalities. And that's my approach to government and to decision making. Now, I ran it before in 2015. Oh,
I tell you, a minute. I apologize. We're going to enforce it on everybody. Number 2, it is. It's very fast. Please welcome Erik Gutshall.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'm Erik Gutshall. I'm focused on the future, and I'm here to ask for your support to be the next county board member. When my wife and I moved to Lyon Park in 1995, we didn't plan to stay long, but we fell in love with this community, and we put down roots, and now we're raising our 3 girls here, and very proud to be a part of this great community that's embodied by all of you here this evening. Arlington is a great progressive success story, but we're at a turning point. Our values shouldn't change, but our solutions have to. I have over 15 years of broad and deep experience, civic experience, starting out as a civic association president and now chair of the Planning Commission. I also own a small business right here in Arlington, so I know there is no such thing as the status quo. We either innovate or we stagnate. As your voice on the county board, I will champion innovative solutions that address school capacity, keep Arlington affordable, and ensure our long-term prosperity. Thank you.
You got every word in. I watched it. Number 3 up, so you know what the timing is. Please welcome Vivek Patil.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vivek Patil. I came to the United States 18 years ago as an immigrant to pursue graduate studies in engineering. And after getting my PhD, I've spent my career working in highly innovative life science companies. I did a few of my own biotech startups. And I am running for this race to present a bold new economic vision for Arlington. I'm championing a green and clean tech economy that actually works for all Arlingtonians. It can help the most skilled engineers that can innovate and create the next generation battery, or it can help someone in the community college or a high school degree that gets a job retraining and goes and builds those amazing new batteries. It brings all Arlingtonians up together. That innovation transcends to the way we live, the way we work, and the way we play. And I hope to achieve that through a more collaborative decision-making process, something I've learned as a founder of the Building Bridges Initiative. You can find us more on our website at Vivek for County Board. Thank you for your time and look forward to the debate.
Very good, thank you very much. And 4th and last, please welcome Kim Klingler.
Good evening. Thank you, Scott Squared. Thank you, Patrick. And thank you, Ed, for this evening. And thank you to all of you. I'm so excited to be here this evening as a current member of the Committee of 100, as well as your past chair when we celebrated our 60th birthday with Terry McAuliffe, which was fabulous. I have been an Arlingtonian for 15 years. I have established roots here. I am running for county board to keep Arlington safe, diverse, and forward-thinking. In regards to safety, I am so proud today, as a volunteer firefighter EMT, that I received the endorsement of the Arlington firefighters, Local 2800 today. In regards to diversity, last month we had a great program which talked about senior tax relief. And these are the things that we do so well here at the Committee of 100. Forward thinking. We need to plan for the future. We need to not be caught on our heels. We cannot rely on the successes of the past, but we have a beautiful future ahead of us. Thank you so much. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you all to the four of you for that. I'll get that in a second. Now, this is an innovative part of the program. It's going to be very, very good. We've asked every one of the candidates to pose a question that the other three are going to have the opportunity to answer. They're going to have a minute to do it. There's no particular order. I'm trying to keep it fair for everybody. We will start with Erik, and what we'll do is we'll move to your right and then reverse to answer the question. So Erik, and then Peter, and then Kim and Vivek. So all yours.
Explain what you would do on the county board to make Arlington an affordable place to live and work in.
Well, affordability is clearly one of our major problems. And let's face it, it hasn't just started today. It's been a problem for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I believe that one has to take ownership of a problem and then deal with it. And we haven't really done as much with that. But if affordable housing was easy to resolve, we would have done it a long time ago. Now, there's different components to that. Last month, the Committee of 100 talked about senior tax relief. That's a way of helping many older people stay in their homes more affordably by having that offset. I think that we can do more. I served as the Planning Commission liaison to the Housing Commission for 3 years, and I have continuously argued that we need to revisit and amend what we call the housing ordinance to get more money and proffers and set-asides from the development community, as well as continuing working with our nonprofit partners to get more units here in Arlington. I want to diversify their locations so that we don't have concentrations of affordable housing and put challenges on what we call Title I schools.
So as we've heard, this is a complex issue. And I have 6 things written down here, but I probably only have time for 3. So look at Kim for Arlington.com for the other 3. The 3 I'm going to go with. 1 is to reestablish the Middle Income Purchasing Assistance Program. This is a program that helps first-time home buyers that are in the middle. And this is a program we have not been funding for the past 3 years. This is something that we need to make a priority. If we truly believe in diversity, not just for 60% and below of the AMI, but for folks in the middle too, the young professionals, the young families who want to stay and live in Arlington. Live where you work. Our firefighters, our police, our sheriff, our teachers, many of them want to live in Arlington. But we don't necessarily have all the tools to do that. Other jurisdictions are using tools. We should consider those as well. And let's talk about zoning for 1 moment in 9 seconds. The Lee Highway Alliance is doing great work in talking about how can we have zoning for more affordability along major corridors. Thank you.
So the county's doing some amazing work with APA and AHC for providing housing to the most vulnerable, the 0 to 60 AMI. I'd like to see more resident services being offered to those people so that these communities can transition out of a cycle of poverty, be connected to employers, and have opportunities to transition to middle-income housing. I'd also like to see something a little bold for middle-income housing. One of the ideas that I proposed is if you take an old Crystal City building, for example, and partner with developers, and work with 500 new residents that want to live there, that all create a cooperative investment fund and buy into that property, and have the county provide a low-interest loan to these renters and then owners of these properties. We can immediately create opportunities for 500 new residents in some of these old office buildings by retrofitting them. I'd also like to consider possibilities for the elderly aging in place by advancing the senior tax relief and by helping pass and support strongly the ADU, the accessory dwelling units.
Okay, fantastic. Hold that mic because you're going to take the next question. It'll be number 2, and we'll just come down to the right and then to the left.
All of you have done some remarkable work in the community, and I applaud you for your community service. I'd like to know the one thing in Arlington County in your service that you're most proud of, one achievement.
Thank you, Vivek. That's actually a fantastic question because what I love about Arlington is that there's so many different ways to get involved. One of the things that I think was most meaningful for me has been my time on the board volunteering for Doorways for Women and Families. For those of you that are familiar with this organization, they help women and children and families who are either homeless or fleeing domestic violence. And I know what it means when you see those families that are at first, when you first see them, new arrivals, and there's a lot of angst in them. You can sense the tension and you can see it in the children's eyes. And I think of my own daughter and daughters and how grateful I am that we have safe and stable lives. And I'm very proud to contribute to an organization, and you see the transformation in these families where they become, they add stability to those lives and transform those lives. Thank you.
I guess the thing I would most say that I'm proud of, I mean, you know, I served on the Planning Commission for 9 years and was a civic association person, all those things, but where it all came together was I have a strong record of advocacy and a reputation for getting things done and for being very fair. And so I think what I'm most proud of is really that advocacy work and helping people who felt as if they didn't have a voice or that they were trying to be part of the public process, but it wasn't working for them, they weren't getting satisfaction. Perhaps it was weighted against them in their minds, all right? That they didn't have the same types of access. And what I always did was, you know, whether it still do, actually with some frequency, is help people navigate through the public process. I always say, well, if it were me, this is who I'd talk to, this is what I'd ask, this is who I'd lobby, okay? Because people want to participate in our Arlington way and our form of democracy, but we don't make it very easy for them, do we?
Proudest moment is tough. One of the days that is hardest for me when I've been riding on the ambulance is Mother's Day. And the reason is because on Mother's Day, so often I meet people who are alone in their homes, living in not the conditions you would expect in Arlington County. And so my proudest moment was after seeing the same very sweet woman 4 years in a row on Mother's Day who kept calling 911 because she was lonely. On the 5th year, she had a companion. And we helped her get that companion because the fire department started working with DHS in a much more integrated and meaningful way so that she had someone living in her house 12 hours a day, keeping her happy. Unfortunately, that day, she had a little bit of a medication issue, but she was not lonely. So that was definitely one of my proudest moments.
Kim, the question is now yours.
So many of you here are civically engaged. We have 2 other civic association presidents here. It has been said about the civic associations and the neighborhood conservation, NCAC, that the process has become inequitable across the board. So my question to you is, how would you address equalizing the playing field across civic associations and the NCAC process?
Through our Building Bridges initiative that we worked on, I had an opportunity to interact with different communities in Arlington. And as you rightly pointed out, a lot of people feel that they don't have a seat at the table. I would like to envision a One Arlington Day, for example, where we create a more grassroots advocacy conversation, where we have different rooms, where we talk about creative ideas around housing, around transportation, and just listen to all civic associations and all the communities from all over Arlington have a voice. I think we should go to communities as opposed to having them come to us. And so I'd like to convene a more collaborative decision-making process where we source a diversity of opinions, of ideas. There are people who have 3 jobs that don't make it to a civic association meeting. And I'd like to make it easy to be able to go to them and listen to what they have to say. So I think convening this and using that grassroots advocacy to drive our county's decision-making is going to be critical to the future of our community.
It's really an important question because we're at a point in Arlington where we need to be able to better collaborate and come to decisions that we are all comfortable with. And I think when you don't have everybody represented as part of the decision-making process, it makes it much more difficult to do that. So I want to be a voice for those who often feel left out. I'm very proud of the fact that as a civic association president, when I was president of Lion Park, we reached out to the multifamily in our Lion Park neighborhood, those housing that traditionally were not coming out to our civic association meetings. And I think that as a board member, the way that I would want to judge is You know, I very much believe in the ability of a neighborhood to define for itself what its character is, and I would weigh very seriously the input from the civic associations. But I would also place a weight on how well that civic association, if it's just the executive committee meeting amongst themselves, I'm not going to put as much weight into that. So really, I want to push the decision-making down further into the civic associations to reach out.
Well, NCAC is a wonderful program. I represented my community, Donaldson Run, across the road here for over a decade on it. And I think that one problem it solves, has to deal with is it doesn't have enough money for what it's been asked to do. It also puts a tremendous burden on volunteers, both in the civic associations and by streets, but also those who are the actual NCAC reps. Now, I think the county needs to take responsibility for more infrastructure development. I mean, many of you know that NCAC was started by Elizabeth Y., prominent citizen for many years in Arlington and a member, chair here at the Committee of 100, to help neighborhoods get projects done where funding wasn't available centrally from the county. Unfortunately, the county has basically pushed all the neighborhood-type projects down to NCAC. My neighborhood, the street, a couple of blocks away, about 10 years ago, needed a street paved, but it didn't have curb gutters and sidewalk. The people had to go out and get all of these petitions signed multiple times, hold all these meetings, when all they wanted was the street repaved. My question to my colleagues here is, please describe a time in the past 2 years in which you spoke before the county board, testified at a county board hearing, but not while representing an advisory body. Tell us what you spoke about and what your position was, the topic and what your position was.
Well, you got me, Peter. It's been more than 2 years, but I have spoke several times in the past few years as the chair of the Emergency Preparedness Advisory Commission. And much of our advocacy has been about minimum safe staffing. It took us 6 years, but in 6 years' time, we were to get minimum safe staffing on all of our apparatus. You do not want an odd number of people on a fire truck, because as a firefighter, if you are alone, you are in trouble. And we always work in teams so that we can help those who are the most vulnerable at their most vulnerable point in time.
I have not had a chance to speak in front of the county board. I've had a chance to listen and attend a meeting and listen to what the community is saying. I've spent a lot of my time actually traveling through the community and listening to communities about the issues that they care about. I live in Courthouse, and a lot of my residents and neighbors live in a bubble. We go to our yoga studios, we go to our restaurants around, and I would say that I had an opportunity to really go out to the different parts of Arlington, hear about the issues that they cared about, and then see how the county makes decisions around, for example, the whole Airbnb discussion. And so I would say that I've been more of a listener than a speaker representing these issues, because you have to start by listening and then have an opinion that you can talk about. So.
Well, it is true that as a planning commissioner, I get a lot of chance to speak my mind on the issues that come before the planning commission, and eventually that gets to the county board. But I did take the opportunity last year, during this time of year, during budget season, to go and lobby my good friends on the county board to make sure that funding for the Lee Highway Alliance and the Lee Highway Planning Initiative moves forward, because I thought it was very unfortunate that we had a group of citizens starting at the grassroots level, kind of what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, to initiate a planning study with no help from the county at all initially, and really start to forge a coalition of various neighborhoods and of different folks, and started to see a gelling around kind of a vision of what was happening, and a tremendous amount of work by the citizens, and it was at risk of being left to rot on the vine. So I felt compelled as an individual citizen, not as a planning commissioner, to go to the county board and make sure that the Lee Highway planning moves forward.
Now the time comes for your questions. Those who have been following the recent community facilities study plan know that what's coming in Arlington's future is more people. With that brings pressure on everything from schools to public safety to parks to transportation, goes on and on and on and on. Is the situation Arlington has coming toward it sustainable? And if not, no pressure, but 90 seconds, what will you do about it? And let's start with Peter, and we'll go left this time. I'll try to work it so it's fair to everybody.
Thanks, Scott. One of the central themes of my campaign is the challenge of managing growth, all right? And I think that, and I say this as a former planning commissioner, I think that comprehensive planning hasn't served us as well as it should have, all right? I'm somebody who believes you should learn from the past and admit where we could do better. I'll give you examples. I think that we do a great job of trying to reach out to the community and do these various sector plans and things that certainly are the envy of the nation. And we do a good job of saying, okay, you can put buildings here, and we'll have some transit around it, and we'll make the sidewalks nice. And that's all good, but we don't manage the people component of it, which is, okay, we're gonna have more people living here, so that means school growth. And we've had a chronic problem with school capacity for the better part of a decade, and we're in no danger of working our way out of it anytime soon, right? And I say that as a parent of a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. Metro's problems didn't just happen last week. They were years in coming. And former board member Mary Hines was our WMATA representative, and she did argue that we needed to deal with some of these deferred maintenance issues in capital reinvestment. But now we have to deal with these transit issues, all right? Our entire economic future was staked on Metro. We have to deal with these 20% office vacancy rates in the county and step up our game in order to bring companies in.
This actually may very well be, I think, one of the most central issues that faces us in this time, because I think it's very related to the affordability question. Because while we've made this great community, and so everybody wants to be here, and that means property values rise, which is all a good thing. Those are good problems to have. So how are we fundamentally going to manage that growth? And I will say that for me, I think it's not about no growth or fast growth or slow growth. It's really about controlled growth. What we want to do, and what we've got a good track record on, when we use our planning and zoning tools, and we have our long-term plans, we have a good track record of controlling that growth so that we remain a livable community. I think that we are a very livable community. But I understand, and I respect, and I want to be a voice for the perspective from some in the community who feel that we're going too fast or that we don't know where we're going. And it's the part about not knowing where we're going that I think that gets everybody the most concerned. And that is why I have proposed last year, and I'm continuing to advocate for, what's known as the missing middle housing policy. This is a fundamental shift in how we do housing in Arlington County. We've done for decades now, we've done very high-rise, high-density development, high-rise multifamily, and we've saved our single-family neighborhoods. We've done very little in the middle, and that's where the middle class can live, and that's where the future lies for Arlington.
Thank you very much. Excellent question. So there are two components I'd like to address. I've kept talking about collaborative decision making. I think as our resources get tighter, we are going to have to give a little, all of us. I sometimes feel that watching the 4 Mile Run project unfold, that there's a lot of siloed interests that fight for what they believe in. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that there's going to have to be a future where we collaborate on how we share our resources. For example, can we envision, instead of having a standalone performance arts center, can we imagine a situation where you have a performance theater, but have an arts-oriented school program during the day that the children can use, and in the evening that doubles as a performance arts center? I also think it's going to be important to grow our tax base, for example. The commercial tax base right now is dwindling because of our focus on the federal government jobs and because of development slowing down. And we grow that tax base that allows us to do all these amazing things around infrastructure and innovation by creating a robust economic vision. I keep talking about diversifying our economy that makes it more sustainable, that makes it more innovative, and that makes it more equitable for everybody. If we grow it through innovation and we grow it through opportunity, we fund a tax base. That tax base drives the revenue that we need to fund our infrastructure and fund our projects. So I think it's not just the collaborative community, but I also think we have to address the economic opportunity challenges as well in parallel.
One of the third prongs of my platform is forward thinking. And what that includes is being more competitive and being more collaborative. In regards to competition, as we've seen, we are losing business to Loudoun, to Tyson's, to other jurisdictions. We need to not only bring in the Nestle's and the large businesses, but we also need to focus on the medium-sized and the small businesses. Over the past few weeks, I have been sitting down at various small businesses throughout the county talking about how we can incentivize them to grow and to sustain. If you go to my website, we have a few ideas about that, which if I had more time, I'd speak about. Collaborative, JFAC, the Joint Facilities Advisory Commission. I believe this is a start. We are headed in the right direction in regards to having collaboration between our schools and our county. But we actually have to do these planning processes from the beginning with schools, county, and with businesses, with the Chamber of Commerce. As I sat with Chamber members earlier this week, I heard, it's gotten a lot better, but we still feel that we are not at the table with the county and the schools. So collaboration is huge for us, as well as we try to afford things on our own, for instance, NextGen 911, and for bus routes. We're gonna have to do these with other regional partners because it's becoming more costly, and we can save costs by partnering with our fellow jurisdictions.
We're going to go from the sort of broad to the very specific. There is a hospital land swap proposal in the works. I think most everybody here probably knows about it, but Virginia Hospital Center would like some county land. The county has the opportunity to maybe trade for money or for land. There were a number of questions about it. What are your thoughts? Be specific. Erik Gutshall, you're first.
I'll be as specific as I can be, but actually, to me, the point is what we need to do, I feel, is to not bounce from one ad hoc decision to the next. There's no question in my mind, and I went to several of the JFAC roundtables throughout the community, and I think it was fairly universally a common feeling in those groups that yes, the county should acquire land when and where we can acquire land. But having said that, I think that rather than to start talking in 2017 and a hurry-up decision about what should we do with any one particular parcel of land, what I would advocate instead is the opportunity to let all of the voices be heard, to come together with a county board and a school board that are in collaboration on the JFAC, looking at what are all of the community facilities and schools that we need over the next 20 years. So if we need 5 schools, 3 fire stations, however many parks, community centers, senior centers, all of our needs, having the picture, the total picture that is equitable across the county, there's parity that everybody can get behind. This is how I feel that we can get past the factionalization where it's about parks or affordable housing or schools or pick your point. Is when there's one total solution, everyone can see how all of the pieces fit together, and I think we'll be able to get behind a total plan.
Okay, thank you. Let me remind you, you may answer any question you want, but the question was specific about the hospital. So if you have thoughts about that, I would ask that we have all yours, Peter.
Thank you. I agree with Erik in that we do need to have sort of a comprehensive idea, and I think we do have that. It's called the various components of the county's comprehensive plan. What we don't have is all in one place. Now, specifically, I've advocated for a long time that we need to be making more strategic land acquisitions in this county, okay? By various means, and the top of that list, of course, is a free, fair market, non-adversarial transaction if someone wants to sell to us. The hospital, I think we absolutely have to acquire that property. We also have to acquire the Buck property over on Quincy Street, okay? These are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to buy multi-acre sites. We have uses for them. Schools, parks, housing, community buildings, unpleasant type of thing, back of house type environment things such as, bus facilities and what have you. We have a need for these things. We're not making any more land. We need to acquire these properties as they become available. I fully support the mission and what the JFAC is doing, but their work won't be done for a year. The county board has to formally vote to move forward on the Buck property and the Virginia Hospital site in June and November. And we've already spent $3 million already to have an option to buy the Buck property. I certainly hope we're going to exercise it.
The Virginia Hospital Center made a presentation to the Economic Development Commission where I serve currently. And I actually am very impressed with the work that they do. And I believe that I'm in favor of that land swap. I agree that at some level, having land is going to be one of the most important commodities for us. I think public lands is just 2.2 square miles out of our 26 square mile county. But I also echo a lot of what my colleagues are saying, that we really have to think about how that land gets invested and planned. And instead of immediate sort of decision making, I think we have to, in cumulative, look at all the properties and the lands that the county acquires and think of a vision that lasts the next 20, 25 years. I think that is the decision making that has to happen. And so without looking at properties, there was an article in Arl Now that talked a little bit about the Buck property, for example, about putting an elementary school there. Now, the virtue of that is it's an amazing idea. I think it makes sense. But I think I would also like to bring other stakeholders to offer what their ideas are. So I applaud the Virginia Hospital Center and the work that they're doing, and I am in favor of that land swap. And I'd like to see, as the county takes all of this land, what they do with it. And that decision has to come from all of the different stakeholders from all of Arlington. What that needs to be, whether it's joint facilities that bring schools with community centers, whether that's green spaces. I think we need to have a bolder, grander vision that accommodates all the different feedback from the community as we make those decisions for the land we acquire.
So real quick, I was a senior manager at Deloitte Consulting for 9 years. This is what we do, and this is what we do well. We take a step back, we look at what our needs are, we do an assessment, and then we prioritize. And that's exactly what my colleagues here are saying that we need to do as a county. I now work at a cancer association. And so I work with cancer patients and their doctors on a regular basis. So let's talk about the hospital specifically for a moment. We cannot swap all the land. We've been told we can only afford some of the parcels. You can have Carlin Springs, you can have a few properties on Lee Highway, but you can't have it all. This is where we need to truly understand what are our priorities. Another point I want to make is, I do think Virginia Hospital Center should get the land right next to them, which has been in the agreement. But one of the things we are losing is mental health beds. And as a county where we don't have pediatric beds, we need to make it a priority that we work with Virginia Hospital Center to ensure, again, our most vulnerable are cared for. It's going to be a tough decision to figure out what our priorities are, Carlin Spring, Lee Highway, but I do think, to Erik's point, and I was there with my green signs, we have to keep planning for the Lee Highway Alliance so we can make smart decisions and not just an ad hoc decision.
The county manager has requested a 2-cent increase in the real estate tax rate. The Arlington Civic Federation says the county government can take care of its own business without cutting anything with no tax rate. You've seen some of this process. Where do you come down? Tax rate, no tax rate, somewhere in the middle?
Can I have 1.5? Just kidding.
You have whatever you want.
So I was at the Civic Federation meeting, was that on Tuesday? On Tuesday, where they discussed the tax rate. The challenge we face is when Christian Dorsey asked the county manager to go from 2 cents down to 1 cent, 24 items were put on the table for cutting. 24 items that are important probably to each and every one of you here in the room. I am not currently on the county board. I am not going to make this decision right now. But I will tell you, I would have asked, if we're really going to look for 1 cent, I would have asked, if we had time, the county manager to come back with a different proposal. Because I truly believe the lightning rods were put on the table. And that's where we stand today.
So I think this is going to be an increasing issue for our county. As our commercial tax base becomes under threat, property taxes and tax increases are going to be a part of life, unless we find a way to diversify and expand our economic engine. I would like any tax increases, I'm in the private sector, I'd like to see greater transparency in how that money is spent. I want to see efficiencies introduced as we introduce and increase these budgets. For example, with small business growth, for example, it took me 5 minutes to start a biotech company in Delaware, right? I would like to see just even that process being put online. Make it efficient. make applications efficient, and there are huge cost savings in trying to make county processes efficient. So I'd like to see opportunities for making government more efficient where we possibly can, and really find a way to create better spending plans for the county in terms of all of our different resources. So yes, I am actually in favor of the 2% tax increase, because we're going to need that for our schools and for the vision. But where there is waste, like for example, there are things that have to be cut, I think we should be making that decisions as a county. And I'd like to ask more of our county government to make processes more efficient and look at that more seriously.
Thank you. As somebody who owns a small business and who pays pretty much every kind of tax that there is, from a business tangible property, the beat poll tax, business license tax, who pays all these taxes, I want to be a voice for those in the community who are very concerned about fiscal discipline. I myself believe I am very fiscally disciplined. I make payroll every other week. I know what it means to have a budget. However, part of being on the county board and why I think I'm well suited for this position is because I also wear the other hat. I've also got kids in the school that I'm worried about. I also love the fact that we are a caring community and we have a strong social safety net. I spoke earlier about that I went and advocated to the county board for planning for Lee Highway. That very same planning for Lee Highway was among those 24 items that were in the county manager's proposal. If you want to cut a cent, that would be one of the things that would be cut. So how do we balance that? And I think what I would say is you balance it by understanding that rising property values, which as I said, is a good problem to have, but nonetheless makes it difficult, in particular for those on fixed income. Rising property values are because we're so successful, but they are not a blank check. So we have to be disciplined, but we also have to understand that our budget is where our values are, right? Somebody I heard quoted the other day said, don't tell me what your values are, show me your budget and I'll tell you what your values are. And that's the way I would approach it.
Well, I'm a tax accountant and also work with small businesses and various folks. So I get numbers. And fiscal accountability is very important to me as a taxpayer and a voter. And at the end of the day, I do think there are opportunities for us to look at ways to re-examine some of our programs. And are we getting as much value for that? Are we serving as many people as we should or could? And I think the way to do that for the dollars that we're spending, and I think one way of doing that is to look at some best practices of other communities. Now, at the end of the day, this 2-cent tax, first of all, we all know that our assessments go up most years, which as Erik said is a good thing. It means we have value in our homes. So even if there's no change in the tax rate, your tax bill and mine is going up. And I think it's kind of insulting when we don't sort of own up to that as a community. We're an intelligent community and people should be treated as such. Fiscal transparency is important to me, but a lot of these expenses that the county manager now wants to deal with, rising school enrollment in Metro, these aren't going away. So the tax increase is probably going to end up being systemic, all right, into the future. It's not a one-year trade-off. It's not a one-year thing. There's no way around it. You're adding 800 to 1,200 students a year. And most of the school budget money goes to paying the teachers, and I certainly support treating these people well. And Metro's had years of deferred maintenance and other problems, and we have to pay more for that. And if we're also going to give large subsidies to corporations to come here, that means, unfortunately, the taxpayers have to pay more directly. And that does bother me.
What do you think and what would you support, or would you support the establishment of Arlington as a sanctuary city? And in your 90 seconds, kind of define what that term means to you, because it means different things to different people. Let's go with Erik Gutshall, and then we'll go left and come back.
To my understanding, there is no actual definition, there's no such thing as a sanctuary city. It's sort of a term that is bandied about that has no real definition. So I think what it really means, what we're really talking about, is what is the role of Arlington County in protecting or being welcoming and inclusive of all of our citizens. I like the fact that in Arlington County, our police department serves and protects all citizens regardless of their documentation status. I have employees, and I know many of them are immigrants, and I know what it's like for them, and I understand how hard it is for them. One of my employees, his father-in-law passed away, and his mother-in-law cannot travel back to Guatemala to attend the funeral for fear of not being able to get back into the country. And so she doesn't want to leave her life here. This is not a healthy environment. What I believe, fundamentally as a county board member, I'm very proud of the fact that the county manager, the superintendent, and both school board and county board have put out very strong statements. But there may come a point in the very near future where we really need to back that up with actual action. And my view is I have a family in Denmark, my mother is Danish. I believe in the passive resistance model, which is you do the very, very bare minimum to comply with the law and not an ounce more.
Yeah, we convened an immigration forum actually about a week ago and heard a lot from the community around this issue. I think a sanctuary city, there's no legal definition, but I really believe that the county should do more. That was the feedback from a lot of the folks in the community. I've spoken to people that said there was an instance of a young man who had access to ICE in a prison. ICE is the Immigration and Customs, as many of you know, and in my view, I think the county should instruct our police and our community, and we have a good partnership with our sheriff's office and the police, to make sure that we don't share data with ICE, that our schools, our community centers are safe zones. Now, people may say, well, you know, we've got the Dillon rules stay, there are things we can and can't do. I say, let us put our positions out there. This community values and protects the most vulnerable. We care about our residents. Let Arlington take a position vocally that we will not, in any event, and we will stand up to the federal government, we will stand up to the state. We'll get slapped on the wrist, but I prefer that we are on record for protecting our most vulnerable and instructing our police to not share our data with ICE and protecting those some of those immigrant families. So I'd like us to be more forceful. I'd like us to take a very strong public position around this issue, even at the cost of having to deal with the federal government or our state assembly. Arlington should stand up, and I think it's time to exercise this sort of activism in this instance.
We are a welcoming community to all. We are a very influential community. And there's certain ways that we can stand up without making ourselves a target. And one of the first rules is to do no harm. I volunteer at the Arlington Free Clinic. One thing I love about the Free Clinic is that we do not ask for documentation. We do not ask for your legal status. We do ask for your tax ID. We want to make sure that you are giving back. Currently, we have patients who are missing their appointments because of fear. They are afraid to come to their appointments and get their medical care and their medication because of fear. As a county, we are doing a lot right now, but we are doing it through our nonprofits, not to make ourselves a target. We are doing it through AFAC, the Arlington Food Assistance Center. We need to continue to support AFAC and the Arlington Free Clinic. Folks that were receiving food stamps, some of them have actually discontinued their use of food stamps, and now they are clients at the Arlington Free Clinic. So we can take a stand in a very powerful way, but in a way that doesn't put our most vulnerable at risk.
I think this is a great question. Both of my parents were immigrants. I'm the first member of my family to be born in the United States. And now they came legally, and they had the benefit of speaking English, all right? When people talk about sanctuary cities, I find it to be a very offensive term, because I usually find that people who are using that term are referring to people who don't speak English as their first language, or who are people of color. And I think that that is wrong, and that I don't really have a lot of time for people's prejudice and bias. But it's part of the world, and as a county board member, as a father, as a member of this community, I have to deal with it. Now, there are people living in this community in fear, wondering if their loved ones are going to be at home when they get there. I don't think people should be persecuted and stalked. I really don't. These folks are in our community, in many cases. They are taxpayers. I know I prepare tax returns for people who have ITIN numbers. Not many, but some, okay? And I am a longtime supporter of the DREAM Project. Young people who came as children, young children to this country by their parents, have documentation issues and are basically unable to attend previously until Attorney General Mark Herring made some ruling changes, who weren't able to easily attend college. And this group, headed by founder Emma Villan Sanchez, from our former school board member, have made a big difference in helping these people, these students, be able to continue their education and move forward and help their families. Now, again, these are, generally speaking, law-abiding people. I don't think folks should be persecuted, and I don't know. They came here because of this. They left places that we see on the TV news, and I'm glad that I don't have to live that way.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what the purpose of the question is, but it's a reasonable question. How long have you lived in Arlington?
I've lived in Arlington for 2 years and 1 month.
Okay, see? I'll go left, sure. Yeah?
I moved to Arlington in November of 2001, so someone do the math for me.
Erik Gutshall?
22 years.
31 years, including 26 in my home.
Final question that I'm going to ask from one of these. A word that gets used a lot about county board relationships is collegiality. Again, if we can kind of do this in 60 seconds, because we want to get people out of here. Define the term and let me know if you think it needs some improvement or is in good shape in the county board. And because I can't see, whoever has the mic, take it. Go ahead.
How'd the mic end up in my hands?
That's right.
So, collegiality, I think there is a lot. From everything that I can see, there is a good deal of collegiality amongst the county board members. I do have the opportunity to have conversations with all of the current county board members on a regular basis pertaining to planning commission issues, and the conversations are always fulsome. I think collegiality is based first and foremost on mutual respect, and I do believe that there is that's one thing that Arlington has in spades. We have a lot of respect. We have a lot of very smart people here. We have a lot of very passionate people, not just on the board, but throughout the community. But we all, I think, generally have a very strong sense of respect, and that's important to collegiality. The other aspect of it is just, frankly, is just good humor and good nature, and I think that we have that on the county board as well, too.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Peter, because Peter has kind of been at the back end on some things. We want to get you in the middle, so go ahead.
Okay. To me, I view the board's collegiality as being about being professional in how they carried out their duties, being civil to one another and respectful to one another. At the end of the day, whether someone agrees with the county board member or not, let's face it, they won an election, and they represent all of us equally. And I think that has to be recognized and it's important. As far as the dynamics, I want to say, of joining the county board, I mean, I've worked with Mr. Vystad on various things over the years before he was elected to the county board, and have found him to be, helpful, as with the other board members in my community. When Mrs. Garvey was on the school board, she routinely consulted me and asked me to help get school projects through the planning process. I served with Mr. Dorsey on the planning commission, working very closely with him on several major initiatives. And I've had the opportunity, as recently as 2 weeks ago, to talk to Ms. Crystal and on various community issues. But to me, this is all about good government and being able to work together. It doesn't have to be a 5-0 vote, but you have to work together for the people's good.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Patil, we'll go to you.
Yes, I've lived in 6 different states and in 6 different cities, and I have to say that Arlington is one of the most remarkable places I've lived. And I think I owe it a lot to the county government and the county board. I find them to be respectful of each other. It's a county board that brings a diversity of opinions, life experiences, their willingness to listen. I've spoken to some of them at 10:30 at night on the same day. I call them in the morning and they say, I'm available. It doesn't happen in a lot of places. And so I respect this county board for being respectful of each other, for being responsive, for being willing to listen to a diversity of ideas and opinions. And it would be a real privilege and honor to work collaboratively with all of them to add a voice with an eye to the future and a new vision looking ahead. So I thank them for their wonderful service, because it takes a lot, and I understand it. So.
One of the wonderful things I've been able to do in my career and in my volunteer work is to put teams together. And when you put teams together, you want them to be complementary. And what I do love about our county board, we have Jay with institutional knowledge, green knowledge, environmental policy knowledge. We have Christian, who's the economist and on the Metro board. We have Katie, who's really focusing on women's issues, making sure people can get rape test kits in the county, we're trying, and child care issues. John, who brings the legal perspective. And you have Libby, who has the school's perspective as well as the county perspective. I want to be part of that team. because I love watching how they work together, and I really think I can complement them. As a servant leader, as a healthcare professional, as someone who's done the work on the ground, boots on the ground, as well as the policy work. So I've been able to see how policy actually affects the people on the ground.
All right, thank you. We're going to give everybody just 1 second. Please give them a round of applause to catch their breath. I would also like to thank our timekeeper who did a fantastic job. As with all good political leaders, they left not a second on the table, not a single second. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it in the reverse order of where we started low that hour ago. And that means for 1 minute closing, Kim Klingler will be first.
Good evening. Again, it's Kim Klingler. It is a tongue twister. Think of the guy on MASH, Corporal Klingler with an extra L. Thank you so much, Committee of 100 and guests, for having me here this evening. This organization is so important to me. I've been a member of it for quite a few years. I have been your chair, and now I still sit on the board. I am so touched and so honored and privileged to be running for county board. I am so honored to have received the endorsement of the firefighters at Local 2800 today. I really hope that if I did not get your #1 vote today, you will go ahead on my website, kim4arlington.com. Please check me out. Please let me know what questions you have. My background is public, private, and nonprofit. I think this is what we need for taking Arlington into the future. Thank you again for coming this evening, and good night.
Thank you. That would be you, Mr. Patil.
I thank you all for this opportunity. One of the great things about Arlington is this welcoming community that gives everyone a chance to succeed. My story and my candidacy is reflective of that. I'm standing and providing a bold new economic vision for Arlington, one that creates opportunity for all Arlingtonians, as I described, with a green, clean tech economy that partners Arlington with the rest of our state. And as a biotech entrepreneur, as an innovator, I feel I'm uniquely qualified to fulfill that economic vision. I also, through the Building Bridges community, want to see a more collaborative community that sources ideas and brings all these different voices to the table. Arlington is a truly wonderful place, and I want to fight to preserve that welcoming and inclusive community that we have, that progressive community that we have. I'm proud to stand before you, and I ask for your support on May 9th, 11th, and 13th. Thank you very much.
Next up, Erik Gutshall.
Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity. I have to say that I actually feel very honored to be among this group of candidates. I think this is a very strong field, and so we can be proud in Arlington and to know that when you go in to the voting booth in the Democratic Caucus, you can rank the candidates. I'm asking, and I would love to have your support to be your #1 choice, but if you like one of these folks better, I'll take your #2 as well. I appreciate that. And let me just say real quick that they say to use your closing if something didn't come up that you want to talk about. I didn't get a chance to expand too much on what it means to have a small business in Arlington and what it's like to do business with Arlington. That's one of the perspectives that I think that I can bring to the county board that's a little different than the other candidates up here. I currently have a building permit that is sitting on someone's desk or in someone's inbox, because it's electronic these days, up at the county. I understand the maddening frustration of dealing with the county, and that's something that I want to get to work on right away. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And bringing us home, Mr. Peter Fallon.
Thank you. I've been described by Rip Sullivan, our delegate up here, as somebody who lives and breathes Arlington. And I was described by the Washington Post in 2015 as somebody who was serious and substantive. Yeah, I'm not necessarily warm and cuddly, but I'm serious and substantive. And that might be something that we need, at this time on the county board. Now, I've done the work, and I know how to get things done. And I've also been here long enough and done enough things to know that we do have arts and school. It's called Kingmore Middle School. The county board didn't fund the MyCap program because it didn't work, all right? And I know that we have to find better ways to do things because those objectives still need to be met. Now, as I said, I'm a strong supporter of the schools because what better reason to come to Arlington to want to raise a family? But this is also about schools being the great social equalizer, okay? Children who speak English as a second language or don't have as wealthy of a family, where they're able to get the same great benefit that we have. I'm Peter Fallon. I asked to be your first choice at the May Caucus. It's open to any registered voter in Arlington County willing to sign the Democratic Loyalty Pledge. Thank you so much.
All right, big round of applause for you. Now, unless the other Scott has something to say. Thank you and good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming.